Ahead on Q2, hammered by hail.
Bullets. It was just like somebody was shooting bullets at your window.
A severe storm rips across Billings and beyond last night, leaving damage in its wake. And now, more threatening weather is already in the air, packing quite a punch for the second straight day. Ed McIntosh will have all the latest. And huge boots to fill.
Mike and I just sat down and just briefly had a quick meet and greet, and I've known Mark for a little bit. I'm anxious to learn all of that from them.
Chris White is Yellowstone County's newest commissioner, as he will replace the late John Oslin. The MTN 430 News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Andrea has the night off. I'm Don Hudson. Our top story this evening summed up in just two words: holy hail. Billings residents really in cleanup mode right now after a severe storm left behind miles of damage. That storm, which began about 10 o'clock last night, hit a large area from Laurel to the west end to the Heights. Now, Blue Creek and the Heights saw significant hail, ping pong ball size at times, while some on Broadwater Avenue saw flash flooding. The Kerr family, living just southwest of Billings, were among those impacted. That storm, by the way, damaged their windows, fences, gutters, vehicles, even their family garden. Sarah Kerr said that she's never heard hail quite like she heard last night.
There was hail the size of ping pong balls that were hitting that front window, and it sounded like bullets. I mean, it was really scary. I've been through a lot of hail, different kinds of hail and stuff in my life, but I've never had anything like this.
Just a lot of water and a lot of hail. More storms are threatening the area once again. With the very latest on these systems and what we can expect, here's Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
Here's a live look as we look out towards Miles City, where they're trying to get set up for their usual street dance on a Tuesday evening. But right now we've got showers, thunderstorms just south of town. A severe thunderstorm warning into effect. Everything in the pink shaded areas, which is a big chunk of Wyoming and all across southern Montana. The potential for strong to severe thunderstorms, gusty winds and hail are threats with storms tonight. And over in western Montana, a threat of some flash flooding. And it's not like we're out of the woods for that either, as we saw those heavy rains from last night. Now, if we see additional rainfall, that could mean saturated ground and some problems for thunderstorms, creating some flash flooding. You see quite a bit of thunder and lightning. If I zoom down around the Billings area, fairly quiet around Yellowstone County, but into the eastern plains, we'll continue to watch that shower and thunderstorm development throughout the evening hours of tonight. With that heavy rain potential, we could have more on the way. Details in a few minutes.
One person is dead after a police pursuit in Cody led to an officer-involved shooting. Now, the Cody Police Department says the incident began last night just after 8 when a city officer tried to stop a vehicle. Well, the driver didn't want to stop, took off, first through the city and then eastbound on a Wyoming state highway. That pursuit ended near mile marker 58 when the suspect's car experienced some type of mechanical failure. An officer then tried to make contact with the suspect, identified as 22-year-old Lucas Alvestifer, and that is when police say shots were fired. Now, Wyoming law enforcement did not say what led to the shooting or who fired first. Alvestifer died in the gunfire, but no officers were injured. The Wyoming Department of Criminal Investigation is looking into the matter. The Billings Police Department is seeking a person of interest in regards to last Wednesday's shooting that left 19-year-old Waylon Limpy Jr. of Lame Deer dead. Now, police have released this photo of Sage Francisco Spang, saying he is a person of interest in this investigation. Yesterday, police released pictures of these two individuals who they believe have information in the case. Wednesday's incident first began in the 700 block of Cook Avenue, with Limpy being driven to the Billings Clinic before his body was discovered by officers. Anyone with information into this crime is urged to contact the Billings Police Department. A 17-year-old boy now recovering after suffering significant thermal burns during a hike near Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park. Now, we are being told that the incident happened Monday morning when the teen was hiking in the vicinity of Lone Star Geyser. The teen's foot broke through a thin crust, resulting in burns to his lower extremity. The boy was transported to the hospital. The incident remains under investigation. It's the first known thermal injury, by the way, in the park this year. Yellowstone County now has a new commissioner. Chris White has been tabbed to replace the late John Oslin, who died tragically in a plane crash. White, who was a store director at Albertsons and who served on several boards, was selected by Commissioners Mark Morris and Mike Waters. As our David J. reports, White is gracious for the opportunity and knows he has some huge shoes to fill.
That I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
The Constitution of the United States of America.
Chris White is a choice as commissioner to replace John Oslin, who died in a plane crash last month.
Those are huge boots to fill.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have appointed Chris White as the county commissioner for District Number 1 to fill out.
White came out the top candidate after a process that started with 12.
I feel like that I have a good sense with people that I'll be able to hit the ground running. I'm really looking forward to working with the team and getting everything going.
Commissioners Mark Morris and Mike Waters selected White from a list of 3 that also included Kirk Bushman and Charlie Loveridge.
They were all great candidates, 3 good men who have done a lot for our area, our community.
Chris White will serve in District 1, the southern part of Yellowstone County. He's worked at Albertsons for 37 years, rising to the level of store director at 2 locations, and also served on numerous nonprofit boards.
Chris seemed to have a broad range he's on the Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative Board, and through that membership, he is on a couple of national electric cooperative type boards. He's managed a pretty large retail business. Chris White offered the best fit for Mark and I to work together in the remainder of the term.
Both Morris and Waters say John Oslin was their mentor as they learned the job of commissioner.
Funny, I just was having a conversation with Chris, and I told him, as a mentor, there's always going to be a lot of politics involved. At the end of the day, it's being able to rise above it, focus on what you believe is right.
And they move on after finding a replacement for a friend.
It was difficult. It was very difficult.
And White is ready with the support of his family.
Just amazing. It's really overwhelming. It's humbling. I'm honored.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
A proposal to bring a ballot measure to keep party labels out of Montana's judicial elections is taking another step forward. This morning, the group behind the effort submitted the language for their proposed constitutional amendment to the Montana Secretary of State's office. It would add just 3 words to the state constitution, stating that judges must be elected in nonpartisan elections. During the last 3 legislative sessions, some Republican lawmakers have sought to allow judicial candidates to run with political party labels. They argue these races are already politicized and that would simply provide more transparency for voters. But the sponsors of this proposed measure say they're convinced Montanans are happy with the current system.
This isn't a change for Montana. This is just codifying something that we've been doing in law for a long time, and instead of just being in statute, we're going to move it over into the state constitution. So what we're doing is we're preserving that Montana way of justice, and we think Montanans will react accordingly and support this overwhelmingly.
The proposed text and ballot statements must now be reviewed by legislative staff and then the Attorney General's office. If the Attorney General finds it's legally sufficient, supporters will be able to start gathering signatures to qualify for the 2026 ballot. President Trump undertook personal and presidential business on his 4-day trip to Scotland. The visit included opening the newest Trump Corporation golf course and discussions on trade and the global crisis in Gaza and Ukraine. Doreen Small is in Washington, D.C. and has the latest.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
President Trump cut the ribbon for the new Trump golf course on Scotland's northern coast, then christened the links with a round of golf. During his visit to Scotland, Trump hosted British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, with starvation in Gaza a key topic of their discussions. Returning to London, Starmer held an emergency cabinet meeting Tuesday and announced a major policy change.
The UK will recognise the state of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza.
The U.S. has not yet agreed to recognize a Palestinian state, which Israel opposes. But Trump said Israel needs to allow more aid into Gaza as thousands are starving.
What will you see next to Benjamin Netanyahu?
We're working together to try and get things straightened out for the world.
While the president is pushing for a peace deal in Gaza, he's also pushing Russia to accept a truce with Ukraine, giving Putin 10 days to start talks or face more sanctions and tariffs.
Russia responded to the upped deadline with another round of missiles and drone attacks on Ukraine, which Ukraine says resulted in the deaths of at least 22 people. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked President Trump for the renewed pressure and called sanctions a key element toward an eventual peace. Torian Small, CBS News, Washington.
Could Americans soon be getting $600 rebate checks from the federal government? President Trump has floated that idea, and now a Republican senator is backing it up. Joe St. George looks at the odds of this actually happening.
Remember those stimulus checks from the pandemic, money deposited into your bank account from the federal government? Well, a similar idea has been introduced on Capitol Hill, not because a global health emergency may be on the horizon, but because of all of the revenue being brought in through tariffs. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has officially introduced this piece of legislation entitled American Worker Rebate Act of 2025. It's based on the belief that the federal government is bringing in a record amount of tariff revenue, and as a result, the American people deserve a cut. In June, for instance, the federal government reported a new record for tariff revenue of over $27 billion. For perspective, around $4 billion was brought in this time last year. Even more tariff revenue appears to be on the way, with President Trump announcing new tariff rates for European countries in recent days.
I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games.
Here is how the proposed tariff rebate plan could possibly work. According to Senator Hawley's legislation, $600 per adult and child would be deposited by the Treasury Department into Americans' bank accounts. Individuals making under $75,000 a year and couples who file their taxes jointly and make under $150,000 would qualify. Those earning more would receive a reduced payout. The amount could even increase depending on if tariff revenue booms even more. The legislation is still in its introductory phase, however, with the House of Representatives already leaving Washington until early September, so no formal action is expected soon. Of course, the government doesn't have to give the newfound money to Americans. Some fiscal conservatives have suggested the money could help pay down the nation's debt, or even help pay for President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. President Trump has talked about this idea of a form of a rebate check in recent days as well, although it's important to remember that many economists say tariffs ultimately get passed along to all of us, the consumers, in the form of higher prices. Inflation did tick up a bit in June compared to May, although it's still below 3%. Joe St. George, Scripps News Group, Washington.